everyone, welcome back. I'm Olivia McCoy with MON DIEU. Today we're going to be making citrus marmalade to go with buttermilk biscuits. Alright, our citrus marmalade is going to consist of about 6 grapefruit and 10 oranges. In this case I'm doing a variety of regular oranges, blood oranges, and the grapefruit I have. This is just what was available to me. You can really make this recipe your own with whatever citrus you have. We want the weight to 1 kilogram, which is 1,000 grams. And then we're going to add in the different ingredients that will make this into marmalade, like sugar, pectin, dependent on the weight of how much juice and fruit contents we get. So to start out, we're going to need to supreme the oranges. Supreming it will keep the segments of the oranges and it will allow us to discard any seeds, pith, or that kind of like white center. We don't want that, it's bitter and it kind of ruins the flavor and texture of the marmalade. So we're going to be supreming. I'm going to show you how to do that, don't worry. All of our contents that we want to keep are going to go inside of our pan. I'm using this pan, which is like rather large and flat, shallow, large pan. That's what we want. We want the heat to conduct evenly among our citrus. If we use more of like a pot, which is possible, it will just conduct the heat in a smaller area and not really get to the top. You'll have to stir more, you'll have to wait longer for your marmalade to thicken. So this is just a little tip. Using a pan like this will help us in the long run. Alright, so first things first, for our oranges that we supreme, we take off the top and the bottom. So we have a flat surface to work with. Taking your knife at a 45-degree angle, you're starting at the top and you're shaving off the skin. You want this white part, we can go back and trim it again, but we want the white part to be gone, the pith. We really just want to keep this interior. So this is one of the blood oranges, which is why it looks all red like this. So again, we're just going to take it down to the bottom. I'm starting at an angle and then I'm ending at the opposite 45-degree angle. Really just following around with the curve of the orange. If it's difficult for you, just keep on practicing. Go back a second time, get that pith off. That's going to make it bitter. We don't want that. So all in all, this is the start where we have just our fruit. All of our skin is going to be composted or thrown away. Discard that. Now for your actual segments. Once you have your orange with the skin and pith taken off, you're going to segment the orange, also called supreming it or supreming it. You take your knife, you can see, I don't know if you can see, I'll get a different orange and show you, but there's a part where, oh maybe you can see now, there's a line here that's kind of white. That's going to be where your segment starts or ends. We're going to cut just a little bit away from that, going at an angle inside, so you're angling your knife into the fruit, and then again you're angling your knife into that segment, so when you pull out, you just get that one segment of your fruit. So that it doesn't have any white pithy part, it's going to go in. I'm going to do that again. I'm just going to keep doing it for the entire orange. So you see there's a line there. That's where I'm going to cut just at. And then on the other side, same thing. Alright, I'm making a little mess, that's okay. So I'm just going to keep doing that. We just want to keep the fruity flesh. We don't want any skin or pith. And making a mess. That's okay. use a smaller knife, like a paring knife. I just like this one because it's nice and sharp. And this has a little seed in it, so I just took it out. No seeds, please. Alright, so I took all my segments out, so I kind of have like this little loose flour. Still have the insides there. I'm just going to squeeze the juice in, and then the rest of it is going to be discard. This is a regular orange. It's going to look a little different. You can like squeeze these bits in too. Right, so we just supremed all of our oranges. They are here with the juice that their skins contained. I just squeezed the skin any remainder like flesh that was on the skin into our pan, and then I put it in my compost. You can see that there aren't any seeds and there's very little pith. Just try to take as much of the pith off. Really, we want none in there, but if you're struggling with supreming, that's okay because it is difficult. A trick I have to make it a little bit easier is to put your citrus inside of the fridge, allow it to chill, and that really firms the fruit up so it's not falling apart on you. It really like maintains its structure, so it's a lot easier to work with. So keep that in mind. All right, for our grapefruit, we are going to take the skin off like we're going to supreme it, but then we're not going to. Yay, no more of that. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut it, and then if we find any seeds, we're gonna take the seeds out. We just want the skin off, keep the flesh, take the pith off. Nothing bitter remaining. Alright, once we get to the point that all of our pith is off, a little bit there, you can always go back around if you have a lot left. Squeeze the skin juice. So I'm just squeezing the ends. Okay, so now we just have our skinless grapefruit here. We're going to cut it in half, so not cutting with the lines, but cutting against them. If we're cutting the world in half down the equator, that's what that would look like as well. And then each of our halves, make sure you can see this, we are going to just cut down, again, against the lines, not going with them. Any seeds you see, we're just going to remove those. and throw the remainder without the seeds into our pan. Alright, those are all going in, and we're just going to do that for all 6 of our grapefruit. In my case, I only had 4 grapefruit, so I added in 2 extra oranges. So we really want 10 oranges, 6 grapefruit. I did 12 oranges, 4 grapefruit. If you make some adjustments, it's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. So again, if we're cutting down the equator, and then cutting that into about 1-inch sections, taking out any seeds we might see. Now, if your board is extremely juicy, that's quite alright. We're just going to take any of the pith and seeds that we collected and discard them. Okay. And then once we've done that, any juice we have on our board, we're going to try to place into our pan, because that's some good juice for our marmalade there. I put a napkin down, wet napkin underneath my board, so there we go. That will help it from your board from sticking if you put a wet napkin down. Or sliding, so it's the opposite. So no sliding because of our wet napkin. Okay, and we can use it to clean up a little bit. There we go. Okay, we've just collected all of our juice from our grapefruit and our oranges, along with our grapefruit cuts and our supreme oranges. So all of that is inside of our shallow, deep pan, which is going to help us to conduct the heat evenly so that this thickens up in a timely manner. If we have only a pot to use at home, that's okay. It's just going to take a little bit more effort as far as time and stirring and checking on it goes. That's quite alright. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add our dry ingredients to this mix. What we have is 200 grams of sugar, and this is equivalent to 1 cup of sugar. So 1 cup of sugar, or if you measure it out, 200 grams. And then we add in our pectin. Pectin is a natural fruit thickener. It's like the agent inside of the fruit's skin, such as apple skin, especially green apples, has the highest amount of pectin. This is what's going to cause our marmalade to set. It's similar to gelatin. Gelatin's just a man-made version of it, so you can use gelatin instead. The way that it works is you put in as much as you want it to be thick. So in our case, we're going to go with 10 grams or 2 teaspoons of pectin. I just found the pectin inside of the grocery store. It was just along with the gelatin right beside it. So you shouldn't really have a problem finding it. If you do, you can substitute it for gelatin. Now that everything's in, we are going to give this a little stir. And then at this point, we can add, oh, I found a seed. If you see any seeds, take them out. Be vigilant. At this point, I'm going to put it on the stovetop and cook it down. And I could also add zest in here if I want it to be a little bit more acidic. Or if you have citric acid at home, which is, you can also find at like international markets, or if you have like a cool store that has you know, different types of dry goods, they might have citric acid, and that's really fun to play with because it makes your stuff nice and sour. I love sour. Okay, one more seed I found. So yeah, I'm just giving it a check for any seeds that I just want to take out before it turns into a thickened product. It's harder to take out. Okay, I am going to add 10 grams of citric acid, so 2 teaspoons. And you can adjust your juice the way you want it to go. If you want it to be more acidic, you add like the zest, or like I'm adding the citric acid. If you want it to be sweeter, you can add more orange juice. Let's give it a taste now just to see. Delicious. Ready to go in the heat. We're now at our stovetop. We have our mixture that's going to turn into our marmalade over a medium heat. This is going to come to a light bubble, light boil. It shouldn't be a rolling boil. We want to make sure we give it a stir, every 5-10 minutes, just so that the bottom is not scorching. Citrus has like a really high tendency to scorch, so we don't want the marmalade to turn out to be burnt. So keep it at the medium heat and kind of let it do its thing. Check on it every 5 to 10 minutes, and then when it gets to this texture where it stays on the back of your spoon, when you wipe your finger across the spoon, it doesn't, the liquid stays, it doesn't bleed. That means that our marmalade is ready and it will set. Alright, we're going to check back on it when it gets to that point, and I'll show you what that looks like. It took us about 5 minutes, but now we can see that this is coming to a nice simmering slow boil. You can see just right in the middle there, and that's the area that we want to maintain a stir, because that's the area that has the most heat. With this, it's not gas, sadly. So watch for scorching in that area, and then we want to make sure we give it a stir to get the outer areas into that middle part. But it's on medium. It's got a nice slow simmery boil happening, just little bubbles, nothing too rapid. Definitely don't want it on high, just keep it here. This could take up to 30-45 minutes, but it's going to be a lot faster than if we had it in a tall pot. Okay. Alright, we're just coming to the end of our marmalade here. What we're looking at is our juice level. You can see it right here, that initial rim. That's where we started, and we have cooked down our marmalade. It's now reaching the level which is called nappé, which is when we can put it on the back of our spoon, slide our finger through it, and then that line that's created doesn't flow into itself. It maintains the structure. That means that our pectin that we put in there has reached a point that it's going to make this kind of solidify into a marmalade or jam once it's cold. Right now, I'm just waiting for this last little tiny bit of liquid to kind of steam off. So all of the steam is the liquid that's left is evaporating, and that's how we got this level to cook down. It's all that steam is coming off and all of our liquid is evaporating. I think we're pretty much there, but I'm going to turn it to low, and I'm going to let it sit for about maybe 5 more minutes. Yeah, maybe just 5 more minutes. This has been on for about 30 minutes, so keep that in mind. You're going to need a span of time. It's about 30 minutes. And once our 5 minutes on low is up and the liquid has seemed to evaporate off, that's when I'm going to show you how to keep this in the refrigerator until it gets cold and set. Alright, here is what we're looking for in our marmalade. So when I'm taking my spoon, reaching it across, I'm not having much flow back towards the center. That's good. It means we have, lost that moisture I was looking for. When I take my back of my spoon, cover it in my jam, and then run my finger across it. I don't know if you can see that, but that edge, that line, that's what we're looking for. Okay. So now what we're going to do, we turned it off. I'm going to take this over to my countertop. I have my marmalade, which is ready to be poured into something that's going to contain all of the marmalade, but also metal cools rather quickly, so this will be good to cool it down in a short amount of time. You like to enjoy the marmalade when it's set. In order to set it, we're going to pour it into this mold And then we're going to lay down a piece of plastic on top of the marmalade, and that's to ensure that a skin doesn't form on the top. All right. Let's check out my pouring skills, I guess. Okay. So here we have our marmalade. I think it's going to set up really nicely. We have our plastic here. Okay. Just going to get enough to cover it, and then we don't want to stretch it out and make it tight on there. We want to press it down on top of the marmalade, right setting on top of it. Pretty satisfying to do actually, so enjoy this part. I want to try to avoid as many air bubbles as possible. Get it right down onto it tightly. Okay, there we go. The rest of it we could just kind of push down around it. But this is what you're looking for. So we have our plastic wrap that's going to form the skin. That way we ensure that we don't form an actual skin on top of our marmalade here. All right, we're going to check back on it when it's cooled down, and then our biscuits should be ready too. Here we have our orange marmalade, our citrus marmalade. Remember, it had the blood oranges in it, it had the grapefruit, and it had regular oranges. So that's why it has this really nice ruby hue. If you're not using blood oranges, you might get more of an orangish tone to it. It's totally fine. It's set up nicely into this jammy texture, which is what we are looking for. And now we're just ready to enjoy the two together. Super tender, super flaky biscuit. Really nice and crisp on the exterior, so soft on the interior. And then this citrus marmalade just has the right amount of tartness to sweetness. Amazing. MON DIEU. Thank you for watching. Bye.